it's an interesting thought exercise because here, 20 plus years of MMO gaming, everybody's used to a map. Everybody expects a map. You come in, there isn't one, and it's like, I can't play this. Like, I don't like this. But then it's been really interesting to see how many people slowly warm up to something like that. So in the same way, yes, there's a lot of years of MMO game playing. We've come to understand and expect a lot of things. There's a lot of MMOs that give you every bit of information. So is this an area where coming in and not having that, not having all the details about what threat's doing and AC and things like that, is that actually part of this classic renaissance of, getting back to a different kind of game experience where you don't have that?
It's easy to feel somewhat spoiled with the amount of features that modern MMOs give you. Easy access to dungeons, mounts, raids, even gear, and leveling up has all become not exactly trivial, but not exactly challenging either. I'm not one to say what is and is not the right feature to put into a game. I've never developed an MMO, and I don't have the experience to tell you that one thing will definitely make you succeed and another thing will definitely make you fail. But considering I'm currently invested in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, I thought it would be fun to give my take on 6 features that the game absolutely needs. Contrary to what you might be expecting by going into this video, I'm not going to be covering things like an auction house, a mailbox, a guild bank, or things like that. I feel like this game has room for these things to be added and involved eventually, maybe, depending on the subject, but I'm gonna go with something a little more off the beaten path, for the most part anyway. And with that, we will get into the very first feature I think that they should add. I know one of the favorite pastimes in this game is standing in Throne Fast and advertising things that you're looking to buy or sell. Straining your eyes, reading the chat, and watching it fly by depending on how busy the time of day is and how busy your shard is. But imagine with me for a moment if you had the ability to key in certain highlighted terms that would highlight a series of text as it was put into chat. This could be something added to the settings menu or to the chat setting itself, but imagine if you could have a place where you could input a term that you were looking for. Let's say that you wanted to buy schematics, so you entered the word schematic into the highlighted key term. Now, anytime a specific term is put into a specific channel, be it out of character or auctions, it would highlight the word or perhaps the whole message. This could expand to options beyond just simple search terms for buying, but it could be groups if you're forming for skeletons or gobs, or if you just wanted to highlight your name. So anytime someone said your name, it would highlight the message. This would make it incredibly easy to filter through the stacks upon stacks of messages that are spammed in the auction channel or the OOC channel, specifically if you're trying to get something accomplished or get something bought or sold. Now, I'm no developer, so I don't know how hard or easy that would be to accomplish, but it seems like it would be something that would be fairly trivial and would be extremely helpful, particularly this early in the game when there's no central marketplace or spot for people to gather for looking for groups or to sell things. It just seems like it would be immensely helpful. Another feature I believe would be wildly helpful is sort of a two-parter. This is seen in other games such as Final Fantasy where you can enter a character's search information and when other people target you, they can see whatever it is you enter. So imagine if you could target someone and consider them the same way you would any other mob. And in the chat would appear whatever search info it was that you put in. You could probably limit the characters to a small number like around 25 or even 50 if you're feeling generous, but this would give people more than enough info to know what you're about, know what you're trying to do or trying to accomplish, or perhaps you're promoting your guild or your clan, or you're the guild leader, or you're looking for a group for a certain thing, or maybe you are looking for a guild and you can put that in your search info. Regardless of what you use it for, it's an easy way to sort of tell people what you're about. If you're a farmer, if you're a crafter, if you're a guild leader, if you're looking for a guild, this is a simple and easy way for people to identify you and the thing that you want them to most know about you without having to shout it in chat every couple seconds. Before I began making this video, I had a discussion with a close friend of mine who had a strong opinion on mob markers. I realized that there's an audience for this game that prefers things to be difficult. You need to have a better coordination and a better game knowledge in order to really truly succeed. But I feel like there's enough room here for some middle ground. Some games take it to the extreme, allowing you to mark way more mobs than necessary. Not only that, but sometimes they even go even further beyond, giving you the ability to mark the ground and cluttering the battlefield to such an absurd degree there's hardly anything you can make out or discern clearly. Granted, people usually know what these markers mean and what they're supposed to do, but this isn't what I'm proposing is done with Pantheon. Instead, I would propose that there be an ability for a class that takes up one spot on a hotbar and cycles through 3 different marks. These marks can be either complex, being a unique symbol to the world, or be something simple like a triangle, a square, and a circle, or maybe just a 1, 2, and a 3. Either way, these marks could come with some simple effects. Perhaps the first mark makes exposed easier, the second one makes opening gap easier, and the third one makes CC easier. I feel like this would bring an important tool to tanks who feel like they want to have more control over the battlefield, or at least the ability to better coordinate without everyone having to be in Discord or some kind of voice service. All in all, this might put too much burden or responsibility on the tank, but as someone that generally mains tanking classes in MMOs, I would love a way to better coordinate my party without them having to work and being able to rely on me. A wise man once told me, if something works, if an idea has proven to have success, if you don't think it will harm what it is you're trying to do, just steal it. And that's more or less the spirit of my next suggestion. From older games like Mabinogi to newer games like New World and Final Fantasy XIV, players have had the ability to compose and play their own music in-game. Now, before you go running to the comments to complain and tell me that this would be an absolutely annoying feature, there's actually one other problem to worry about, and that's copyright material. Yes, I realize that players being able to spam a single note on an instrument would produce a very annoying sound, and yes, I understand there's probably some legal ramifications with playing songs like Boulevard of Broken Dreams or really any song from any other video game. However, let me pose this to you. One of the strongest features of Pantheon is its audio and sound design. From the sound of rain falling on the roof to the beautiful tracks that follow you from zone to zone and even the combat music, all the work that goes into this game from the audio team makes it feel like it would almost be criminal to not have some sort of method to play music. And the easiest crossover that I can find between this and any other game would be New Worlds, where you play a set notes in a rhythm game style fashion to music that is composed specifically for the game. And after the performance has concluded, people have the option to tip you for a small amount of money. A couple copper or a few silver, and in New World, these games would provide you with small buffs such as gathering speed or faction rep increase for a small amount of time, though the time was increased depending on how well you did and the level of difficulty you chose to play the song at. I realize Bard will be eventually released and it could very well have something like this, but if they don't plan to implement this for Bard, I would love for this to be implemented for all characters. I realize this might not be a terribly popular opinion, but just from the experience that I've had playing music in other games and from how I've been inspired by the music in Pantheon, I feel like it would be a shame to not in some way capitalize on the magnificent audio work that Visionary Realms has put into the game thus far. Above and beyond that, however, are the community aspects that come from people that enjoy this kind of thing and enjoy doing it together. And if there was some kind of ensemble function that came along with it, you would see bands popping up left, right, and center. There isn't a point in time where this sort of thing isn't popular and people wouldn't hop on the train, and I sort of love being able to walk around to different venues or different locations and hear what people are playing. If it's a custom piece or something they got inspired from somewhere else, doesn't really matter to me. I just enjoy that there's someone out there willing to play. Regardless of if this has a mechanical benefit or is purely cosmetic, I would love to see the ability to play music put into the game. I had made mention previously in this video that one of the most engaging pastimes taken part in this game is standing around in Thronefest and shouting about stuff to sell. And I was only being a little facetious when I did so. Unfortunately, there's currently no good place to do sales other than in the general chat, and while you can separate channels into specific groups, such as having auction being in its own tab, there's still not a very good place to sort things and have it be a concise list of what you can and can't buy. I know there's been a lot of talk back and forth about an auction house and whether it should be added into the game. In fact, it's been a rather contentious topic, with some people demanding it be added sooner than later and some people demanding it never be added at all. But considering that depending on the time of day, your chat can kind of look like this. I don't really find it hard to believe that people would be seeking an alternative option. So I'm here to present that option. Imagine there was a location or an instance in which people purely went to do business. Now imagine within that space there are to be stalls. And at this particular stall is a friendly dwarf named Bob.
Great to meet you.
Bob has paid an amount of money to rent a stall in this market space. He must be online and present in order to man this space, but while he is here, he has an inventory space that he can use to hold his goods. While the space is holding his goods, he can set stack prices and individual prices for items that are currently in the stall. The trick is he will have to be present because deals can be made outside of the scope of what this inventory offers. Say for example, Bob was selling a full set of leather gear and someone wanted to trade them a full set of chain gear. He might accept this offer, but he has to manually withdraw the item in order to trade it. Aside from that, people will be able to select the stall and see what items are being sold and for what price. I mentioned before that this is a pretty contentious topic for debate, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that disagree with me or have their own ideas, but I would actually be interested in hearing those ideas. I'm not completely in favor of a 100% player-run market, but I'm also not really interested in a WoW or Final Fantasy-based market either. This is simply an attempt to keep the interaction a social one and make the world feel a little more alive by having to be present and at the keyboard in order to sell your things while keeping deals malleable and being able to make trades if you're interested. It's my hope that these player stalls will give the opportunity to be more interactive with the community while putting the market in a place that's a little more accessible and a little more refined, instead of just being out in the general populace with everything else. Before I get into the final feature suggestion, I want to thank you for watching and remind you to subscribe and like the video. If you think of a feature that you'd like to see in the game, please leave it in the comments below, and maybe I'll do another video featuring your comment. Now with the algorithm monster satisfied, I'm ready to move on to the final feature suggestion. Of all the features I've suggested so far in this video, I feel like this might be the most common one, or at least the most well-tried. Games have had a version of a guild hall for as long as one can remember, even as far back as Dungeons & Dragons Online and as new as Throne and Liberty, including of course things like Star Wars The Old Republic, Final Fantasy XIV, Star Wars Galaxies, pretty much any name you can name except for World of Warcraft. Thanks for nothing, Blizzard. Regardless, I think there's plenty of room for there to be a function attached to this guild hall. Perhaps it's actually the only way to get access to a guild bank. Perhaps there are stations that you can use for all the crafting. Maybe there are trophies you can get from dungeons and raid bosses that give you a unique temporary buff. The possibilities for what to do with a guild hall are essentially endless and give the characters some agency within the world. It makes them feel like this little space, this square of land, belongs to them. It's a place where they can show off their accomplishments and the things that they've done with their guild. Above and beyond that, it is also a place to be social, a place that you can gather with your guild to have meetings or just kind of hang out if you need to AFK. Perhaps you could even go as far as to have a specific return point to your guild hall. Maybe there are buffs associated with the location of your guild hall. Spend enough time in a certain city, gain enough reputation, and eventually get a guild hall where all of your members can find a place to call home. Throw in the possibility of being able to customize it with things like decorations, and you will have people falling over each other to get to this feature. Whatever it takes, however much gold needs to be spent, whatever dragon needs to be slain, people will be lining up for their own guild hall. And there you have it, 6 features that I believe would greatly help Pantheon in the future. I'm sure that some of these features are more controversial than others, and I'm sure there will be people in the comments that have an opinion, both good and bad, about what I've had to say. But to be honest, I welcome the conversation. I'm pretty involved with Pantheon and pretty invested in its success. So if there's someone out there that thinks they have a good idea, let's hear it. Put it in the comments and maybe I'll make a video out of it. For now, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and all that other good stuff. Thanks.